Thank you. Thank you for taking my call. This is Gloria from Hermitage, and I wanted to say to Steve, first of all, I was glad this was on Facebook so that I was able to tune in. I tune in often, but would not have probably had it not been on Facebook. But anyway, I want to say thank you, and also for the fact that I'm a person that believes in leading by example, and I'm hoping that all the other council members will follow your lead, looking out for all the people of Davidson County. And certainly, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And of course, we'll soon someday have a mayor election. And I want to say thank you for all your hard work and to keep on keeping on. Okay? And have a good evening.
That notice what I'm doing, it's what allows me to keep fighting the way I fight, because, you know, it's their lives that are being affected. So jump in on you.
All right, I think we lost audio for a second on you. I think it just it cut in and out a little bit for me. Not sure about our viewers, but let's go right over to Ron. Ron, you're now up. Do you have a question for Steve tonight?
Yeah, I do. When they say they hadn't had a tax rate since 2002, every time they reassess property, it reassesses a property, I think, that's a tax increase. Every time a piece of property sells, that's a tax increase because they reassess it to the value of the property. So there's money coming in all the time without the tax increase. That's the reason they hadn't had the tax increase since 2002, and it's not it's a problem with it is you're getting taxed both ways. You're getting taxed by the tax increase, property value increase, and then you're also getting hit with that increase in the other tax, and that's what makes it so hard on the property owners that own property in Nashville, because their values are increasing, and that is more money coming into the system, isn't it?
So, I think his name was Ron. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So Ron, here's the issue we have. Last year, we had this massive tax increase of 34 to 37%. We have a reassessment this year that will be announced. And 50% of the people in Nashville will have their taxes raised again this year. 50% of the people will have their taxes go down, because under state law, we cannot come out ahead as far as the city. So it will equalize itself. But the sad part is the ones who have a tax increase, it doesn't equalize their household. It does not equalize what they have to pay. And so one of the things that I guess drives me the craziest is the fact that we're not even considering a pretty substantial tax decrease right now. And because it was nowhere near what they said it was going to be. And when I say they, I'm talking about the mayor, I'm talking about the director of finance. It was nowhere near what they said it was going to be, nowhere near as bad as they said it was going to be. But it's been that bad on the people of Nashville. And that's one reason I get up every morning and I'm willing to roll my sleeves up and go out and fight for it, because, you know, it has just been handled, in my opinion, incorrectly. There were easier ways to do this. We could have communicated. We could have spoken to folks as opposed to saying, no, this is what we're doing. We didn't cut one thing in Metro government. There was not one furlough. There was not one layoff. But yet people in Nashville that own companies had to either shut their business down for a period of time. You know, they ended up having to lay people off. They ended up having to furlough people. I mean, I know it all over town. But many businesses lost their business. And for the government to come out okay on this side of it is wrong in a million different directions. So I'm just not going to stop fighting every day. And people can say whatever they want to about me, that I don't do anything. Trust me, I do something all the time. I like this bill I'm filing right now. Tomorrow, I'll be up at the state capitol on HB 1315, asking the state to intervene to try and help the people of Nashville and other counties throughout Tennessee that have been hurt so badly during this pandemic that the local governments just really did not pay attention and do what was right.
Since you brought that up, do you want to expand on HB, was it 1314, and what's in it? What do you plan to see tomorrow?
So HB 1315, I'll be up there tomorrow, I think tomorrow afternoon at 4:30, something like that. And basically what it says is if you exceed your debt limit of 10%, you've got to bring back that property tax rate. And if it's going to change, it's got to go before the comptroller. Well, Nashville now not only has exceeded 10%, we now are approaching 16%. With the last spending bill the mayor put out there of almost $500 million, it will add somewhere in the tune of about $30 million a year in debt service we have to pay out of operational funds. That's before we do anything else. We've got to pay those bonds. We've got to do all those things. And they do this just on a whim and say, oh, no, it's so necessary. We've got to do it now. The people of Nashville deserve better than what we're giving them. So I don't know when we can really get into HB 1315, but Alexandria, I would like to be able to talk about that and talk about why I'm going to be up at the state tomorrow saying we've got to get this thing pushed through.
Let's get right to Ron. I know we have people waiting. They want their questions answered. Actually, this is Casey. Sorry, Casey. You were next. Do you hear us? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
You can ask your question or state your comment.
Oh, thank you. And good evening, Mr. Glover. I'm glad to see you down there doing the work for the people of Nashville. But my only thing is, and a couple things, since you're talking about we have a surplus in the revenue and stuff like that, my problem is with the tax increase, well, that means you're saying that the council needed more money to do more things because they didn't have enough money. But every day of every week, because I work in the metropolitan government, I won't say what department, but we see waste and inefficiencies and stuff like that occur up to waste, and that can't be allowed to stand. Now, of course, us low people on the totem pole, we go, is that the right thing? I was born and raised in Davidson County. I went to Hunters Lane High School. I graduated. I became a productive member of the community in Nashville to take care of my fellow Nashvillians, just like my father did, just like his mother did before him. We got a lot. Nashville runs and operates on the back of the people who work in the metropolitan government. Maybe not at the higher end. Maybe not all the council members think that way. But we people at the low end, we think that way. And I know you're working for us, Mr. Glover. But the worst part is, and most people never find this out because no one ever talks about it. They always say, well, why are you giving metropolitan employees 1% or 2% and stuff like this? And then but what they don't realize is the next year they take it away from us, be it a health care increase, cost, or something along those lines. And it just makes us upset because we pour our hearts and souls into this city, blood, sweat. I've done it all. And I'm not saying that the money doesn't need to go to more fire and police. I see it every night. The police are shorthanded. The fire department's shorthanded. And they're not the only ones that are shorthanded. But that's all I have to say, and thank you once again.
So I think his name was Casey, if I understood correctly, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So he's exactly right. I mean, if we look at the Metro employees over the since the Megan Berry days, a pretty extensive cost of living adjustment was promised, and it really wasn't delivered. In fact, it was sadly under-delivered. There should have been a compromise over the last 12 months when the mayor decided to shut down the city and everything else. So many private businesses had to make hard choices. The mayor didn't make any hard choices, nor did the director of finance. What they did was they just raised the taxes, as did most of the Metro Council. They just raised the taxes, but in a 34% tax increase, the Metro employees didn't get anything out of that. Now, I mean, there were some steps that were given, etc., but there was no cost of living. Now, the argument could be that nobody lost their job, nobody got laid off, nobody got furloughed, etc. And so we could sit down and have a long conversation about that. But the Metro employees as a whole have been abused for literally, I'm not talking about a couple of years, over the last several decades they have been. Ever since I've been involved with Metro government, almost 20 years now, the Metro employees are always the ones that have to put this thing on their back where they don't get the raises, they don't get this or they don't get that. I think hard choices had to be made last year. I don't think the mayor and director of finance made those hard choices. But the people that are employed in Metro, that was not their fault. So when we look at every aspect of how we invest our money, how we do what we need to do on behalf of the citizens, the taxpayers of Nashville, absolutely. The employees of Nashville have been abused. And yes, I point out police, I point out fire, I point out, the building community, etc. But make no mistake about it, we can dig down and we can go through literally every aspect of this. And there are so many inefficiencies, as Casey said, that occur every day that need to get cleaned up. And we need to just be honest with one another about it and figure out how do we go forward and how do we actually make the city run better for the taxpayers and lower that burden on them as far as the tax rate is concerned.
Thanks, Steve. We do have to hit a commercial break, but we'll be right back after this.